Welcome to Hannity. We begin tonight a Fox News alert. Big breaking positive developments to share surrounding the deep state. This is very detailed. Pay close attention. I've got to unpeel the layers of this onion. First, I have to admit the McCabe news on the declination for prosecution is frustrating, especially when the IG had identified 4 separate incidents of lack of candor. That means lying. It seems, as I said last night, only conservatives, they seem to get punished for that in today's America. Now, what we know is this is the single biggest abuse of power scandal, corruption scandal in modern American history, and it is playing out before our very eyes. We now see that the corruption at the highest levels of government, what we've been talking about, unequal justice, a lack of equal application of our laws, equal justice under the law, a two-tier justice system operated by a group of, again, the 1%, lawless, vindictive, evil government officials. All of this is on the line in this country, and it matters how it turns out. But we have reason tonight that your hearts not be troubled. Why? Because big, major, consequential developments clearly are on the horizon. Now, so far, we have been completely vindicated on everything we have reported to you. The media mob, 3 long years of lies and conspiracy theories and hoaxes and smears and slander and besmirchment and everything else in between. Propaganda. Tonight at this hour, there are still career unelected bureaucrats who hate President Trump, hate that you elected him, and are on what is an unyielding mission to continue to destroy anyone and everyone who supports him. And the events unfolding this week represent the perfect example of everything we have been telling you for 3 years on this show. Robert Mueller's Trump-hating minions recommended first-time offender Roger Stone get 9 years in prison? 9 years for a process crime? What? Over a few overblown lies? Nonviolent process crimes, including 4 counts of lying to Congress. Well, they lie every day. Adam Schiff lies almost every word that comes out of his mouth. On the other side, breaking today, we learned Andrew McCabe will face no charges, no trial, no nothing. McCabe lied over and over again, and we prove that. He was fired by the DOJ for his lying, and the department's inspector general recommended him for federal prosecution, writing, quote, McCabe lacked candor on multiple occasions. 3 of those occasions involved his testimony under oath. And that's not all. McCabe even admitted he lied to the FBI. But Andrew McCabe is facing no charges whatsoever. And get this, look at your screen, because breaking moments ago, fellow deep state hack Lisa Page is celebrating. She posted that picture on Twitter, holding a glass of wine, caption, cheers, Andy. And keep in mind, this same classless individual, she was forced to resign from the FBI in disgrace after exchanging dozens and dozens of nasty text messages about Donald Trump with pure, ugly political bias with her best friend, Peter Strzok. You know, the guy that said, oh, I can smell them from here, the smelly Trump-supporting Walmart shoppers. Oh, what a great pair they are. And apparently, if you're a Trump-hating bureaucrat or a Democrat, oh, you can perjure yourself or lie to the FBI with 0 consequences. Or can you? Come to think of it, look at your screen. If Comey or Hillary Clinton or quid pro quo Joe or any prominent Democrat or deep state official seems at this hour, but it's about to change, I think, you can commit a whole host of potential crimes and not even face an indictment. But if you're Roger Stone or Paul Manafort, by the way, not taking a high-ranking government official, and you have no power whatsoever, but if you're Stone and you lie to Congress, they want to put you away for, 9 years. By the way, the median time spent in prison for rape is 4 years and 2 months. Murder, just a little over 13 years. Yeah, that's real. But breaking tonight, this could all be changing very soon. We are now beginning to see something very large unfold. Moments ago, Roger Stone's attorneys have filed a motion for a new trial. That is a major development. That should be granted. And by the way, it should be the beginning of Stone's ultimate vindication. We have more good news. The McCabe dismissal is, frankly, when you really look at it, it's a declination to prosecute on one specific issue. Here's my read between that and General Flynn news today, because we know that Barr just installed an outside counsel to look into the General Flynn case. So I'm reading the tea leaves here, and my sources confirming, the same sources that I've been using for you and getting the story right for 3 years, that the Attorney General, Bill Barr, is now focused on something much bigger, much deeper, that will have far-ranging ramifications, serious ramifications for that 1% that abuse power, that 1% involved in the corruption, those deep state bureaucrats who abuse their power. Because as we speak, the Durham Barr criminal probe is underway. I've been told by my sources that, in fact, it has gone deep, it has gone wide, it has gone far, and the evidence they are accumulating is overwhelming and incontrovertible. That's what my sources are telling me tonight. On this program, we refer to all of this as the investigation into the investigators. Now, according to reports, this investigation is scrutinizing the actions now, and we've been wondering when this is going to come. Former CIA Director John Brennan and many other current and former deep state officials responsible for the Russia hoax. Remember, the origins of the Russia hoax. That's the heart of the investigation. And now it has expanded out far and wide. Durham has spent weeks in Italy and Great Britain. That would tell me and indicate to me that the outsourcing of intelligence gathering and spying on Americans to circumvent American law is in play. I am told that this evidence that we already have, that it was about premeditated fraud on a FISA court. Nobody else in the media got that story right. We got it right on this program. The evidence is proven. It's a slam dunk case. We already have that. And Barr has already confirmed, you got to pay attention, that the FISA applications were fraudulent. Barr has already confirmed that a candidate, Donald Trump, his transition team, and deep into the presidency of Donald Trump, spying happened. Yes, he used the word spying. Okay, now we know about the warnings, multiple warnings that were given to those when they filed the FISA applications. Don't trust Steele, he has an agenda. Hillary paid for it and it's not verified. Multiple warnings. That means premeditated fraud on the court. That means a huge day of reckoning to me seems to be on the horizon. I may be wrong. I don't think so. It also would mean potential charges for so many who recklessly abused the FISA court or any of this nation's powerful tools of intelligence. We entrust you with those tools. You don't get to turn them on the American people because you have a political agenda. And a new development. That's not all. Now, we learned today that Barr ordered outside prosecutors to review the case of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Thank God. You might remember James Comey bragging on camera about, setting Flynn up. And, I sent my guys in there. I'd never do that in the Trump or Bush administrations or ever get away with it. Decorated military hero, 33 years. They forced him to plead guilty to one charge, lying to investigators. But the investigators actually didn't think he was lying. Why did he do it? Because they threatened to go after his family and his kid, and he already had to sell his house because he couldn't pay his lawyers. In their initial reports, the agents wrote that Flynn didn't appear to be lying. So they made him lie so he could save his son. What father, I guess, wouldn't do that? Good for General Flynn. And here's how I interpret that action. I can now see that General Flynn will be vindicated. I can believe tonight, and I have believed tonight, that the Durham Barr probe will deliver a devastating blow to the deep state, which has to happen. Or we might as well take our Constitution and shred it, because equal justice under the law and application of our laws will be dead. But these are clear messages now being sent. When Barr stepped in and stopped the prosecutorial abuse on Roger Stone, that was huge. That case needs to be vacated completely, as we now know the jury foreperson had a political agenda. A Democrat, an activist Democrat, that had actually even talked about the case. And to date, my sources have been right the entire time. So tonight, I can report this. I am cautiously optimistic that real justice will be done. And it seems like the decks are being cleared. Looks like a 5-alarm fire happening at the Justice Department. And we should know in short order, well, short order meaning a few months, what will happen, how this will fall out. To his credit, the president, as the Attorney General said yesterday, has given the Attorney General, the DOJ Inspector General, the space to conduct what is important independent investigations. It is completely, by the way, within the president's power to order the probe himself. Did you know the president is the chief law enforcement officer in the country? He's number one. When the AG stepped in to amend the egregious sentencing of Roger Stone, he did that on his own. What he did with General Flynn, he did on his own. According to a brand new report from Kimberly Strassel, Wall Street Journal, here's what actually happened. Quote, and her sources have been impeccable. Interim U.S. Attorney Tim Shea told the department's leadership he and other career officials in the office felt the proposed sentence was excessive. As for the deadline for the filing, as that neared, the prosecutors on the case nonetheless threatened to withdraw from the case unless they got their demands for the stiffest penalties met. Mr. Shea, new to the job, suffered a moment of cowardice and submitted to that ultimatum. High-ranking DOJ officials made to decide these things. They decided to reverse the sentencing way before the president issued any tweet condemning it. But for the Trump-hating prosecutors hell-bent on revenge and prosecutorial zealousness, and frankly, in my mind, overreach and abuse, resigned in a fit of anger, apparently. And as Strassel points out, they failed to realize that career civil servants aren't some aristocratic class entitled to immunity from supervision. They're employees. The danger isn't political authority, but rather an unelected Mandarin class that believes itself exempt from democratic accountability. Now, of course, Democrats will never let the truth get in the way of a good old-fashioned anti-Trump witch hunt, will they? Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia now warning that Democrats are using the Stone sentencing for an excuse. Now they're talking about another impeachment push. And you have, of course, the compromised, corrupt, congenital liar and coward. There he is, Adam Schiff. He's foaming at the mouth already. And the only way to stop another Schumer Schiff-sham show, well, there's only one way that I know. In 263 days, you're the ultimate jury. You can shock the world again. And if you vote for the president, you elect Republican congressmen and senators, they can't do this anymore. This is the most consequential election, frankly, in modern history. And I'm not overstating the case. We are now, as a nation, and frankly, the world, on the brink. But tonight, we have reason to be hopeful. I can't give you a timeline for the investigation into the investigators because the wheels of justice move pathetically slow. Drives me nuts, but I think it's coming to a head. The DOJ stepping in on Stone, that is not a small thing. The 4 hacks leaving the DOJ, that's not a small thing. The review of the Flynn case, that's not a small thing either. And the weeks and weeks and weeks that Durham and Barr have spent abroad, that is sending a real signal that they want to get to the outsourcing of spying on Americans, and that brings it right to the front door of John Brennan. What did he know? When did he know it? Clapper, what did he know? When did he know it? And what did Obama know? And when did he know it? So I'm putting aside my temporary anger and praying that justice is now near.